So I woke up this morning to an update from Apple, a response you could call it. It is, of course, a software update, iOS 12.0.1. Now, before I even saw the update, I had a few people on Twitter telling me, hey, Lou, Apple has fixed the charge issue. You need to update the world and your audience with this development. And truthfully, I feel that is my responsibility, considering I was the one that amplified the original signal on the original problem. It's also important to include this follow-up because it's great that Apple has responded here and fixed this issue. I tested it on a few different phones. This is the update right here. Fixes an issue where some iPhone XS devices did not immediately charge when connected to a lightning cable. Now, there's some other fixes in there as well regarding wireless networking. Some people were having some issues there. Specifically with Wi-Fi, it looks like they addressed that also. All good news, and I have to commend Apple for getting to work pretty immediately in order to fix these issues. This one on the left actually was the worst of the bunch. I couldn't get it to charge when it was in idle, and in some cases even when it wasn't. So as you'll see here, even from idle, boom, it starts charging right away. That's of course what any user would want to see. Now, a lot of people on Twitter were like, Lou will never do it. He'll never post an update saying that Apple fixed the issue. That's of course not true. Here we are, we're talking right now. And the funny thing is it's like, what do you think the goal is here? Like, why wouldn't I? Of course, I don't want to completely throw the phone out the window and say that it's garbage. Never said that. In fact, I've been using it for a while, and surprisingly, I've been pretty okay with it. Like, I've been, dare I say, enjoying it to a certain degree. It's definitely a great phone, and my criticisms generally with this device have to do with the cost to performance ratio more than how it behaves as an overall product. But the thing here that I can't understand is why people would be upset at myself amplifying a problem that real people were having and wanted to have fixed or addressed quickly. After all, if you're a regular user, you don't really have a loudspeaker like I do here. You could be in the Apple support forums, you could let them know, but how quickly or how slowly they address your personal issue to a certain degree has to depend on how widespread, or even the perception of how widespread that particular issue happens to be. When I get a request from an audience member saying, hey, I have this problem and so do some other people, and I see my opportunity to amplify that signal and address something that's probably of interest to many of you, the only thing that could potentially happen is that Apple would get to work on fixing it. You are the customer, okay? Right? You're the person buying the product. And I had a tweet recently where I said something along these lines like, careful defending a brand. At the end of the day, that brand works for you. They're working for your hard-earned money. You're the boss in this equation. So when a person like me makes you aware of a potential issue or puts pressure on the brand to respond in an efficient manner, that's better for you, not worse. It can't possibly be worse unless you're just here to have your perspective reinforced by mine, but that's not very useful to either me or you. It's far more useful for us to look at this stuff in a granular fashion to try to uncover things that might be problematic, and then maybe they can get fixed. Now, I know the naysayers out there in the audience are gonna be like, well, Apple would have fixed this anyways. And sure, that's quite possible. In fact, it's probable. But you can't tell me that me amplifying the signal on a platform like this would in any way slow them down. If anything, it would speed them up. So the whole Android Apple thing, honestly, to a certain extent, it's a bit of a waste of time. This particular issue is fixed now. You should be asking for this kind of representation, not the opposite. The opposite, beating the person down and how dare you talk about my dear Apple in this fashion, it's only gonna shut people up. So I think we should be careful about how we approach these situations. Here's the update. The phone is working well. It's my responsibility to post this follow-up so that you know. Go install 12.0.1 and your phone will now charge. ChargeGate is effectively over. We can celebrate that. iPhone users rejoice. And honestly, I feel like this whole sequence is actually pretty great. It shows a couple of things. We have a voice here, myself, yourself included. We have a mechanism for getting directly to a brand quickly. Let me know. I'm leaving it open-ended. You want to tweet at me? You got an issue with your device? I'll investigate. I'm looking. All right? This should be a good time to mention I have now been using the iPhone XS Max as my primary smartphone. All my smartphone uses, my SIM card is in here. I've been using it for like almost 3 weeks at this point, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for the conclusion, the finale, the follow-up. What is it like? How does it compare for a guy who's been using Android exclusively for a very long time? What is the iOS life like for that kind of period of time, for that extended period of time? That video is coming up very soon, so subscribe if you haven't yet, because I'm gonna wrap it all up. I'm gonna bring the realness right here. Where? Unbox Therapy.